Welcome to another episode. Today we're talking about merit transfer. So this is a big topic in Esoteric Buddhism. There is a beautiful rite or service that transfers the merit of your practice to spirits or other people. And so why would you want to do this? Well, Esoteric Buddhism is a Mahayana path. It's practiced for the sake of others. So while all of the merit that you accumulate through your practice does make your life better and helps you to move forward spiritually, you don't want to just leave other people that are in suffering out of it. So if you go to a temple and they are conducting a merit transfer rite, you can make some requests. So typically you'd write, they might have a sheet where you can write it on, who you'd like to request merit transfer for. You make an offering, usually monetary offering, to go with that. And then when the temple conducts that service, they will transfer merit to the person or spirit that you've requested for. So you could request this for people that you know are having a hard time, like maybe they're struggling with money or whatever. Or they're just kind of down and you feel like, wow, some merit and some positive karma would really do them good. You can make a merit transfer request for anyone you want, and it will help them to move forward in their life and their practice. You can also request merit transfer, aka spiritual consolation, for spirits that are in suffering. Now, how would you know if a spirit in the spiritual realm is in suffering? Well, there's a few ways. So we can't normally perceive the 10 realms with our normal senses, but certain people, so we're going to stick to the Esoteric Buddhism there, people who have completed certain amounts of training may have gained some abilities, such as the 6 transcendent spiritual powers that are associated with Buddhism. Go into that in another video. But certain priests or people may be able to access a state of meditation or some kind of state where they can perceive the parts of the spiritual realm. In Shinyomen, this would happen through sesshin training mostly, and people who have a great deal of training would be able to access a particular state and sort of tell you if some spirits related to you are in suffering, or they might point out the spiritual root of an illness or the spiritual root of a situation that you're experiencing. If you have a certain illness, let's say you have a stomach illness, maybe you had an ancestor or a related spirit or past life in which you died of a stomach ailment, and that person or that spirit is now still suffering with that in the spiritual realm, and they could manifest an illness or a situation with you as a way to say, hey, I'm in suffering, please notice me, please send me some merit from your practice so that I can go to a better place in the spiritual realm and not be in suffering anymore. So that's sort of the basic idea behind the merit transfer rite. This is associated with water as opposed to homa, which is associated with fire. So it's sort of opposite elements combining into one thing to do something positive. I would say that homa, again, has the nuance of burning away the negative, taking away the negative, and merit transfer has the nuance of adding the positive. In Japan in particular, this merit transfer is associated with Ullambana, which is a holiday, or Obon. Those are sort of similar in nature depending on what part of Japan you're in. They can be celebrated in July or August. A lot of times it's August. And that's actually related to the root story of where merit transfer came from. There's a disciple of Shakyamuni's named Maudgalyayana, and you can take my Sanskrit pronunciation to the bank because I'm sure it's perfect. And he was an experienced disciple, and he had gained some of these transcendent abilities. And so one day he had a vision of his mother who had passed away, and that his mother was in hell. She was in a place of suffering in the spiritual realm. And he did some kind of rite where he offered her some rice, a bowl of rice, and through his spiritual vision, he could see that it burst into flame. She wasn't able to receive that offering. Tried to offer her some water, and the same thing. He perceived that it burst into flame. She wasn't able to receive this and was still in suffering. So Maudgalyayana went to Shakyamuni and explained to him the situation, and Shakyamuni taught him this rite of merit transfer, or spiritual consolation. So through this esoteric rite that's been passed down, he was able to offer the merit of his practice, the merit of practicing the Dharma, to his mother who was in suffering in the spiritual realm, and it relieved her suffering, and she was able to exist in a much better place in the spiritual realm. So that's the origin of that story. And if you're lucky enough to attend a merit transfer or spiritual consolation service in an esoteric Buddhist temple, again, I'm thinking of the Japanese ones, part of the rite that they conduct, if you notice, if you watch closely, during part of it, they'll actually pour some rice from one vessel to another, and they'll pour some water from one vessel to another. So that's symbolizing, sending that merit. Rice and water kind of symbolize spiritual nourishment. And if you recall from our episode on the 10 realms, there's a realm called hungry spirits. And so rice and water would symbolically nourish those spirits. So you're sending them merit, you're sending them positive karma, you're sending them the positive energy of practicing the Dharma, and that's symbolized by rice and water. So there's a lot more to say about merit transfer, but hopefully that gives you an idea. As always, tell me your thoughts. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me something. And we'll see you next time.